Welcome to the Reschool'd podcast, the show that discusses all the things that schools may have missed, with your hosts AJ Kuti and Jason Gordon. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We are the Reschool'd podcast, the show that discusses all the things that schools may not have prepared you for. As always, I am AJ, and sitting across from me, Jason. Jason, how are you doing today?
Oh, doing great, AJ. I'm just, busy morning, but getting off to a good start. What about you?
Yeah, how's the new the new job? I guess you would say the new position.
Well, kicking off well. I'm still in orientation and stuff, so I hadn't really gotten into it yet. But I'm excited about it. I'm for those of you out there who don't know, I'm teaching at a new academic institution, and it's a teaching position. No research requirement. Yeah, I know, right? And so I can focus on what I love, teaching. So that's it.
Yeah. No, I'm getting prepared because our classes start next week. So actually, when this comes out, it will have already started.
But you're going the opposite direction, man. You're doing a doctoral program so you can get into more research.
So I can, Yay.
See, I always look at it like that. It's, you go into the research, it takes away your ability, time-wise, effort-wise, things like that to teach. Because, professors who research teach less classes usually than professors who don't. So, so you and I are going different directions on that.
Yeah, and I understand the importance of research. I mean, it's obviously a crucial part of academia in itself, but I've always loved the teaching aspect of it. So this is just a means for me to progress further, I guess you'd say, in rankings, but still being able to do what I love, which is to be in front of the classroom. Now, I will say, too, one of the things that I have learned that is probably the most, outside of the end goal, which is the dissertation side, but probably the most invaluable things is just, I thought I knew stuff about accounting, like the in-depth stuff, and obviously I do because that's what I teach, but there are so many micro pieces that I don't because I didn't have the experience. Like, I didn't go to a Big Four. I just went right into teaching. So there was an area of that where I didn't even know that was a thing. Because it's not in any of the classes that I teach. I usually teach intro classes to begin with. But there's a couple of them that I was just like, man, I didn't even realize that was something that I needed to consider. And it's kind of opened my eyes out a lot.
Same thing for me with legal issues. I tend to work on entrepreneurship areas, but basically transactions, funding, contracts, that type of stuff. But when I did that LLM program that I did, it had so many, focused classes that are all just relevant to the life cycle of a business venture, right? And some of the things we got into, right, just in the weeds so far. So you really don't until you take a broader view of it, something outside of what you're doing on a daily basis type thing. You really just don't realize. So, which brings us kind of to what we're going to talk about today, right? We're taking a little more micro view on something that's really important, but a great tip for everybody out there who's considering or about to go to college. Yeah,
this episode we're going to be talking about syllabus or Sylla-Bye. And the reason why we're bringing this up now is this episode will be coming out right at the beginning of the semester for most of the listeners. And we feel like this is an important part because this is a crucial piece of the class. I mean, professors spend time creating them for a reason, to give them to students for them to throw away or never look at. And I think it's very important. There are pieces of a syllabus that are very important for students that they should really focus in on. If nothing else, if you're not going to read everything, which I do think you should read, some parts of it. But I do think it's important for us to offer this advice to the listeners so they'll be better prepared, better equipped. So does that sound good to you?
Yeah. And if you haven't picked up yet, syllabus, singular, multiple syllabuses, Sylla-Bye, right? Syllabuses is not a word. So, we'll go ahead and let you in on that little secret. But before we jump into it though, let me tell everybody, like we do every time, check us out on our website, right? That's Reschool'd.com. That's Reschool'd with a D, not an ED. And our social media handles, right? Check us out on all those. see what we got going on, most recent episodes, things like that. You'll see the platforms where you can find us, various podcasting platforms. And whichever one you use, if you're listening to us, please on that platform, give us, a positive rating, right? That's going to help us build up our listener follower base. So appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into the quick question. And since we're talking about Sylla-Bye, and we've had to construct Sylla-Bye for every one of our courses that we've taught, which has been a few. Have you ever included anything fun or interesting in your course syllabus?
I did at some point in the past, put little comments and jokes and some quotations and things like that, but never anything amazing. But I do have a story about this real quick.
Okay.
I took a math class a couple of years back, just because, it's free if, to take a class or whatever in the college outside of your discipline. So I was like, well, I need to brush up on my statistics a little bit. So I took a statistics and computing class, right, where you got to learn how to use R, if anybody's familiar with what R is.
Gosh.
Yeah, put it to program statistical equations. So actually, no. This was a different class. I'm so sorry. I took that, but I also was taking a calculus class. And I started the calculus class. It just got too much, and I had to withdraw from it because it's just too much. But anyway, at the beginning, the professor gave out a syllabus, and I'd never seen anything like it. We have this form requirement, right? I mean, what your syllabus is supposed to look like. This looked like a dissertation. But it was the most sloppily written. It looked like a comic book dissertation. It was just restating over and over that if you do not do this, you will fail. If you do not, and once again, I'm going to tell you, now this is what I'm asking you to do. If you don't do this, it was a 30-page syllabus that basically said the same thing over and over and over and over. It was just, but anyway, that was interesting. Wasn't funny, wasn't cool. It was just, geez, man, this professor really wants you to know that they're going to kick you out of the class or fail you if you don't do whatever it was she was saying you need to do. So anyway, that was my story of interesting stuff in a syllabus.
That's crazy.
What about you? Anything interesting in a syllabus for you, or have you ever put anything interesting in there?
No, not in the sense of me putting. So to kind of give you a little behind the scenes for most colleges, or some colleges, I won't say most because I'm not apprised of that information, but I would venture to guess. But most colleges are probably going to have a template that the faculty use. And so within that template, we have the areas that we really control, but then there's other areas from the legalese side that we need to keep into the syllabus. So there's not a whole lot you can do outside of that, and that's partly why it's so long. Mm-hmm. And so when we were in face-to-face, so pre-COVID era, where there was, for our college, was not much, there was almost no online classes. So everything every time we met face-to-face. In the first class I would bring in, I would put my Sylla-Bye on our learning management system, so our online kind of course page, if you will, Blackboard, D2L, any of those. And it would be the full, so many pages and everything. But I always created a separate, what I called my syllabus in a nutshell. And it was a one-page front and back synopsis of the syllabus. It was kind of all the important stuff that was really necessary that the students needed to know, outside of one piece, which is the schedule. But I would include that, and I would actually hand that out to them because, when you see like you said, some people have 30 pages, some people have 20 pages. I think mine is, I was just looking at it, mine's 12 pages. But again, that's just the template that we're given by the college. When you see a 12-page document, you're most likely not going to read it.
Right.
And sifting through the important parts is harder. So I always just gave them a syllabus in a nutshell, where it's just the important pieces. And I felt like I could have more fun with that. I can add those quick jabs and the kind of the jokes and the sarcasm and stuff like that. That will keep the interest of the student. So I guess that would be my interesting thing, is I created a whole separate syllabus.
I put funny stuff on, we all use now in college these learning management systems, like you might have heard of Blackboard or Desire to Learn, Brightspace, something like that.
Or Campus something.
Yeah,
Remember the other one?
I've never used that one, but I think Blackboard and Brightspace Desire to Learn are the big ones. But
Mhm.
it gives you the opportunity to put things in announcements to the students and things like that, and you build out this whole like platform for them to learn from. So with that being said, I don't need to put anything in a syllabus. I put it in announcements, or I send it out in class emails and things like that. So that syllabus in a nutshell, I've routinely done that just to focus in on things. But all of this brings us to a good point, right? Our first question of what is
Yeah.
a syllabus? Like, what are we trying to
Yep.
accomplish there? So you wanna jump
Well,
in on that first? What it is and what we're trying to accomplish?
so the syllabus is just more or less the everything about the class in a document. So all the expectations, what you're going to be doing, how your grades are going to come about, the official, I call it the official stuff, like what is the objective of the class, what is uh, the title of the class, what is it for, what are the prereqs, what are who the professor is, where their office is, the office hours. They have required texts are included in there, the outcomes that you're going to be graded on, where the grade typically is going to come from. So, like, how is it distributed among assignments? So, exams, quizzes, homeworks, whatever. And then also, typically, it has some kind of schedule, and some of them do have a schedule that's in there. So, by this date, we're going to be talking, or on this date, we're going to be talking about this. This is what your homework is. This is what your quiz is going to be. These are where the due dates for those are. And then you just got a whole bunch of legal, like I said, legal stuff. So it's not a micro level of the class. It is a closer to a macro level of the school, not necessarily the college, but the school. So for us, the School of Business. So you talk about the visions and mission statement, the outcomes and goals for that. You've got some academic integrity included in there, and some other services that the colleges offer. Those kind of things are always typically going to be included in your syllabus. I'm actually looking at mine right now, trying to find, if I'm missing anything. One of the big parts that most are probably going to include is the technology covenant.
Mm-hmm.
And that just says this is how technology is going to be used and the expectations of how technology is going to be used for the class. But the purpose really is to just explain everything that a student needs to know and should expect in the class and how the class is going to be run, so that there shouldn't be any major questions about the course in general that come up, because it's all in the syllabus. I mean, that's one of the biggest, and this is a tip or trick for students that are listening to this right now. If you want to not get on the teacher's bad side right away, don't email them a question before looking at the syllabus. Because
Yes.
I get questions at the beginning of every semester, and I want to just be able to copy and paste. It's in the syllabus. It's in the syllabus. It's in the syllabus. And because clearly they didn't read.
I've done that so many times, especially once I've gone over the syllabus the very first day of class. And usually that's a recorded session type scenario. I oftentimes, even in class, I'll record that portion to make certain it's there and say, look, if you missed the first day because you joined the class or added it late, here it is. We went over the syllabus. And still, without fail, people that were there, right, they will still send you a question about the syllabus that you answered during class that was in the syllabus blatantly, because they've done none of them. They were asleep during class or didn't attend class, and they didn't read the syllabus. So please don't start out on our bad side, or just annoying us by doing that, right? By being irresponsible.
Yeah, I mean, it's when I get those emails, all I can think of is, well, this is going to be a long semester for you.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's given to you.
Right. I mean, if you can't do that, you're not going to do other work as well. So don't start out on that foot. As far as the definition of syllabus, I would just say that, it includes not only the school's expectations of you with stuff like plagiarism, technology, all that kind of jazz, learning objectives for the school or college, that type of thing, but also the professor's expectations. Lots of times we put stuff in there that is specific to this course, right? That is specific to, look, here is the requirement for Technology Covenant, but remember, you have to bring your computer if you know, that type of thing, or you have to be able to access this site during these hours, that type of thing. So basically, you know, what's going to be required of the class, what you're going to learn, but also those other things, right? You know, if you have a special policy on group work, or, right, lots of times that'll change based upon the nature of the class. Some classes, group work, it's a thing. Other classes, nope, you're on your own type scenario. So just outlining stuff like that. So
when you said that, another one came to my head. A lot of times you have your late submission policies.
Oh yeah.
So if you're doing an assignment, typically you're going to find in your syllabus what the teacher is expecting of you when it comes to submissions, and what the repercussions are if they allow late submissions. They'll tell you what the repercussions are. So if you're a day late, 2 days late, or whatever. And so yeah, I've always kind of looked at it as like it's a pseudo contract between the student and the professor. Obviously there is a bit of flexibility, because even in my classes, like, I go based on, a lot of times the speed of my class goes based on where I see the level of confidence within the student. So if I need to slow down, I can slow down. So when it comes to the scheduling and stuff like that, it's still open to change. But for the most part, I try to stick with it as much as I can. And if something changes, then I'll offer up another amendment to the syllabus, so they'll have it.
Mm-hmm. And another neat thing that'll be in there is whether you're required to buy a particular textbook or not.
Yes.
We've talked about in other episodes how expensive college texts and things like that are. And we gave a tip in there that said, you know, always check the syllabus, check with the professor ahead of time. Well, whatever they put in the syllabus, if they say the text is required, you need to get the text. But in my case, I rarely require a text. I'll put a recommended text in the one that I'll be working from type scenario, but I also give a lot of outside supplements and things like that where students can easily make it through the course and actually excel in the course without the textbook, right? Because, you know, the internet's out there, right? It's
of course, yeah.
Treasure trove of information about any topic you can talk about. So that being said, check that. I mean, that could save you anywhere from, you know, a few bucks to several $100. So that's a big one.
Is there anything that you can think of that is not a syllabus? Like, the thing that comes to my mind is and I kind of alluded to this a few minutes ago, but it's not written in stone.
Yeah.
Don't expect it to be written in stone.
Yeah. So I put that disclaimer in all my Sylla-Bye, and I think most professors do. It's usually part of that school's template, right? That this is subject to change and it's subject to the preference of the professor. So
shocking that a legal professor would include that.
Yeah, right? I mean, but think how fast we go in the class depends on what we can cover. And if we lose or add a chapter, well, that's going to change things, right? There is no hard and fast expectation there. Now, one thing that is set in stone is the number of classes that you're going to meet, right? How long the semester is, things like that. So you know in advance, right? You say, well, I'm going on vacation during this week. Well, you can go ahead and plan for that because more or less, this is the schedule we're sticking to. I almost never move my exams. That's a big thing.
I think I've
put
only
less
moved
material
mine once.
on it.
Yeah.
Oh, you've moved one?
I think I've moved once, but the only time I did that was I actually had to, because it was kind of in that we had finished something early, I believe it was, like super early. Like almost, it was actually a full week early. And so the opportunity was that we were going to move the class, the test ahead by a class period, because otherwise we were going to have to skip into the next chapter, which was not going to be on the exam.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told the class, this is the thought. We can move it ahead, and then it'll give us some extra time on the next chapter, or the next chapters for the following exam. But the only way I was going to do that is I had to have 100% consent from the class, because exactly that reason. I'd scheduled this thing for a specific date, and if they'd planned anything to not be on that class, I was not going to do that to them. Mm-hmm. And so I had to have 100% acceptance from the class, which in that class, it actually, I did get that. So.
Well, good. Well, so, by and large, that's how I've used the syllabus. You asked a question earlier, is there anything that I think is outside of the syllabus? Well, yeah, I mean, anything that is immediate term relevant that just has no level of this is 100% going to happen. I throw that kind of stuff in the announcements, right, for the class. I'm like, hey, this assignment, this case that you had to read, or this particular quiz that you had to take, it's going to take you 30 minutes, and it's going to be 10 reading questions afterwards. I would never put that in the syllabus just because that's too much detail and subject to change, right?
Yeah.
So that type of thing, all that stuff is reserved for, in my mind, announcements in the learning management system, or, and almost all my announcements I send out in direct email as well. If people don't listen to me or don't do what I say in the syllabus and subscribe and make certain you're getting class updates, right?
So let's talk about what students should do when they receive their syllabus. And let me preface that by saying we're both professors. We both create these things for a reason. So we're going to have a part of us that says, or we have that part of us that should be saying, you need to read the syllabus cover to cover because we created it, and that's kind of the academic thing. But then there's the realistic side of us that knows that you're not going to read everything. So we're kind of putting, I would imagine, this is how I'm going to handle it, and I would imagine you're going to be the same thing, Jason. We're going to put on our hat that is more on the student side. Let's just tell them the most relevant information for them that they need to do with the syllabus when they get it. So it's not they're not having to read a 30-page syllabus. They can just kind of go through and get the pieces that they need. Does that make sense to you?
That's smart. Yeah.
And obviously we want you, the first thing is you do need to read it to some degree. And this is actually one of the reasons why we brought this up. And I'm sure some of the listeners have heard this story before. Maybe I think it's been around on like Reddit and different kind of media outlets. But this past year, so I think it was in the winter of, or the fall of 2021, there was a professor at the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga that actually hid a $50 bill somewhere on campus and hid and I say hid is in quotes, hid the directions to get to that $50 in his syllabus. And where the $50 is, there was a sign that says, "Congrats, please leave your name and the date so I know who found it." And by the end of the semester, the $50 was still there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, full semester and nobody found it. It was just, like I said, it was the location of the $50 was in plain sight in the syllabus. It's just no student read it. That's just kind of the reasons why we're bringing this up, is because the syllabus is important, as we've noticed, or as we've pointed out before. But do you have to read everything? Sometimes it's actually better. You could have been $50 richer if you'd have read everything. But what are some of the things that students should do when it comes to their course syllabus? So you and I, we're students. Let's just say we get our syllabus. What should we do?
Yeah. So we can go back and forth on this one with a list.
Yeah, absolutely.
So first thing is, one, the title of the course, the section. Go ahead and identify which one you're in, right? I get students all the time email me that they're in a course and the title is wrong. I'm like, if that's the course you're in, you're not in my course. Are you sure you meant to reach out? And Jason, oftentimes I go by Jason in the classroom. So there are a lot of professors probably with the name Jason. We have a couple, at our institution. Yeah. So that being said,
my institution.
By the way, I still get their email. I got their emails all the time.
Okay.
So look at the name of the course. Identify which course you're in. You might want to try to memorize the professor's name at the same time. That could help.
Yeah, and also location of the class. So if you're going to the physical class side of it, or if it's on Zoom or Team or any of those kind of sites, software or systems, I should say. It'll probably have the link in the syllabus, so that's probably something pretty good to look at. Mm-hmm. And to kind of piggyback on yours, I've been to classes, like I remember in grad school I went to the wrong class. Granted, I wouldn't have noticed it from the syllabus, but I could have had we got the syllabus early. So mine would be, to me, the top place that I'm going to go first when I get a syllabus is if they have it, is the course outline, which is the schedule. What you're going to do week to week or day by day, what are expected of you during that time. So if you have homework, quizzes, assignments, anything like that, if it's outlined, I want to see what I'm going to have and see if you're planning, something. So like for For me, if I was planning a trip or something like that, am I going to have a test on that date? If so, what is their makeup policy, if there is one? All this kind of stuff. And me personally, and I'm doing this right now in my program, is anytime I have, or anytime I get my syllabus, I go and I put it into a checklist. I have a specific program that I use, an app that I use, that I just line everything up as my to-do lists for week to week to week to week. And then every week I just say, okay, what do I need to get done this week? And obviously I know it's flexible because there's going to be things that come up or they're going to add or take away. But I have one class that has stuck to this schedule for 2 semesters now. And it's been awesome because having that ability, the way his is structured, having that ability allowed me to get a little bit ahead too. But also made sure I didn't miss anything. And so that was a big thing. So I love the schedule side of it, the course outline.
That's really smart. I'm going to jump back a little bit. Like, I told you, memorize the course information and all that stuff. The professor's contact information and the office hours and things like that. All right. So the professor's a resource to you, right? That's why you're there. If you didn't need a professor to guide you through the course in a way, you would just go to the library and learn it on your own, right? Or you would just go to meetup groups and try to learn about it on your own. The fact that the professor's there means that they have expectations. You're going to have questions about those expectations, the work that you're assigned, right? You're going to want additional guidance, hopefully. And that being said, you need to know how to reach out to them. Lots of people have contact policies that are just email, or some allow you to text them as well. For some reason, students, at least my current age students, right, current traditional students, for some reason do not like to talk on the phone. I would rather talk with someone on the phone than text message with them. It's very difficult for me to text and get all the ideas and things in there. Same thing with email. I'd rather someone just call me on the phone. Now, whatever that preference is, normally the professor's going to put it in the email. So with that being said, if you identify their office hours, their office location, their preferred contact method, that type of thing, it's just securing a resource for you in the class, right? Yep. So that's one procedural element that I would focus on.
I'm going to do just like you. You piggybacked on your first one. I'm going to piggyback on my first one as well when I was talking about the schedule. The schedule is important because you get to see how the class is structured in terms of what you're going to be talking about each week when your exams are. Right below that, typically, you're going to have a section that deals with the important dates of the college or the university. And you also want to pay attention to that because that's going to show you the days that class starts, the days that you can drop the class without a penalty, the last day to drop, the last day to withdraw, and then also when grades are due, if you have any holidays, it's not going to have any classes on there. That's a very important piece because, especially with the withdrawal, because that's a difference of, getting out before you get a penalty or having to stay and you get possibly an F, or if you withdraw after that period, you get a WF. And so I typically want to pay attention to those just, winter midterm grades coming out. That's also, I want to make sure so I can use that to make my decision about the withdrawal, because usually withdrawal is after your midterm grades are posted. So I would say look at that.
Okay. Next point, the grading items. All right. So the professor is always going to give you a little table there that says this is what goes into the grade percentage wise, right? 15% quizzes, 5% attendance, so many paper and exam, that type of thing. And it's going to be broken down into percentages of the class. Now, know what those are and identify when those graded items are there, because the graded items are how professors assess you in the course, how they assess not only your knowledge of the information, but how you proceeded, right? Did you work through the problems and did you put the effort in required of the course? Because a course that has a signaling function as well. It doesn't necessarily signal that you know everything that you went over in the course. It signals that you've been exposed to it and worked through it. So that being said, actually following the process that the professor puts down there is important. So identify those assessment measures, whatever they are. Go ahead and note them. Obviously, it's probably going to be in the, like you talked about at the beginning, in the schedule type thing as well. But understanding those well, And then you can make determinations about how to balance one versus the other. Which one's more important than the other? How do they add up? Now, I get issues with students all the time. They cannot calculate their grade in the course.
I get that a lot too.
And it's fairly simple mathematics, but if you haven't ever had it explained to you, then, well, maybe that's the problem. Usually everything's broken down as, percent, and all of the graded items are going to add up to 100. Just treat every percentage as points out of 100. So if something's 15%, that's 15 points, all right? And whatever your average is in that category. So you can look in the learning management system and say, all your quizzes together your quiz average is 80%, right? If you've made an 80% on all of your quizzes, that means you've got 80% of the 10 possible points for those quizzes, right? If the quizzes are worth 10%, they're worth 10 points, and you've gotten 80% of them. So you've got 80% of the 10 points, that's 8 points. And you can do that all the way through for each exercise and say, what percentage of those points have you gotten by saying, what is the average, right? What is your average for that item? If you have two tests, one is a 50 and one is 100, then your average is 75. You have a 75% of the points that you can get for all the tests combined. And if all the tests are worth 50 points and you get 75% of them, well, just multiply 50 times 0.75 or 75%, and it'll tell you how many points are there. It's 37.5 is what the answer is, right? But that being said, and then you add those up. I know it's difficult to hear me say that and not see it on paper, but it's a really easy process. So, but if you do the mental math ahead of time and say, all right, these quizzes don't matter as much, right? I can miss one or two of those. I need to prioritize getting these written assignments done or prioritize studying for an exam, right? Above that, when you can make strategic decisions about the class. So anyway, there you go.
That's the reason why we're putting this under strategy series, is because the amount of strategy you can use with this or you can gain from this is super important. I actually went through this past semester, which our semester, at the time of us recording this, my semester in my doctoral program ended yesterday. So all the grades and all the assignments have been submitted. We're waiting for our grades. So by the time this episode comes out, the grades will have already been posted, so they can't change anything when they hear this, if they hear this. But I had 2 classes this semester, and one of them was the one that I was talking about where I had that massive research paper. And my other class, I was kind of ahead, but we had this final project that we had to do, but I was doing really, really good in that class. And so I had these 2 projects that I had to do. One was a little bit more important for the grades purposes than the other one. So what I did is I went to the other class and I just figured out, what do I have to have on this grade for this project? What is the minimum I have to maintain my A? That's it. And I found out all I had to have was a 60. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna do what I need to, but I'm not gonna try to put every minute of the day trying to make this thing 100. I just need a 60 because I'm gonna maintain that A. Whereas the other one was a large portion. It was 40% of my grade, and so I put a lot more effort into that. So I went ahead, did the first classes really quickly, submitted it in, everything was good, and then I just was able to focus in more or less 5 straight days of writing that research paper and getting it submitted. And I just found out I did very well on it, so everything's good there.
Nice.
But it allows you to have that. You're able to look at the opportunity cost side of it. So what am I giving up in order to choose this over this? And that's actually a segment for another episode later on. But I could not agree with you more. It does give you so much information that you could build a strategy on within the semester.
Yeah, and I mean it's your business plan for a course, right?
Yeah,
it's your course plan. Start from
talking
there.
About graduating. Your point about calculating what you have to make in order to pass a class, whatever the final. My math class actually had that as part of our grade, as we had to calculate what we had to make on the final in order to pass the class or get a certain grade, and that was actually part of that class. So,
yeah, it's not complicated mathematics; it's just a process, right? And if they can't do that, then they have a skill deficiency. Well, we can remedy that, right?
We got you. I guess I would say my last one, and it really kind of piggybacks on what you talk about when you're talking about the grade distribution. A lot of times you're going to have the actual grade the assignment details or the assessment tools. They're going to be detailed out, like what you can expect. So they're going to say, oh, we're going to have tests. We're going to have 3 tests over the course of the semester. They're going to be made up of multiple choice and short answer and essay or problems or whatever. Each one of them is going to count this percentage, like you were talking about. Here is the makeup rule. If you're going to miss the exam, here's what has to happen if you're going to make it up. Those kind of things I'm going to look at. What's the homework going to be like? Is the homework graded for completion versus correction? So are you going to get counted off if you get it wrong, or is it just simply, I just want to get it completed? Mm-hmm. If there's going to be any, I wouldn't say odd things, but things that you wouldn't expect. So like in my class, one of the parts of the grade is what I call professionalism. And because we're a business class and we want you to be in that kind of that business professional mindset, I want to kind of hold you to that standard. And granted, it's a small percentage, but it's still part of the grade. So are you attending classes? Are you coming in late? Are you not prepared? Are you, giving me your attention? Those kind of things. That goes into your professionalism grade. And so you want to pay attention to those kind of things too, because you don't want to forget about those. I can't tell you how many times students have come to me and they said, hey, is there anything I can do? Which that's another question. Don't get on the teacher's bad side, especially
There's a lot you can do.
Yeah, but especially at the beginning of the semester, do not ask the professor, is there any opportunity for extra credit when you haven't had any credit yet? Because that pretty much lets me know you're not going to try. You're going to be, basing it off of what you can get in extra credit. But, when you get to that point and you're looking at these things, I've had students say, is there anything I can do to get that next letter grade? And all I usually do is look at their homework or their quizzes, because homework and quizzes for me are online, so all they have to do is do it online. And it's pretty much set. They know it's coming. It's all on them. It's their responsibility. And had they done their homework or their quizzes, then they would have got that next letter grade. But because they missed it, forgot it, or just didn't want it, I don't know, whatever they got, below the letter grade that they were wanting, or was not able to get that next letter grade. So these small things are also very important. They can add up to bigger things. So you want to know what those things are. Yep. So I think that'll be my last one.
Well, that does it for me too. I think we've covered it. Just remember, it's a tool that, it's expectations on you, but you can use it strategically too. Yeah, there you go.
Well, good. I like this episode. This was a good one, especially since, like I said, I'm still trying to get my Sylla-Bye together. I think I've got most of them done, but I still got, one more I got to go work on. So I've enjoyed this. What about you?
Yeah, this has been a good one. Just before we take off, though, remind everybody, again, visit the website, shoot us a message if you have anything you want us to talk about in the episode. Of course, we're always looking for topics, but more importantly, we want to talk about what you care about. So let us know about that. And then also, obviously, once again, the socials and the podcasting platforms. Give us good marks.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you all enjoyed it. I know we have. Until next time, we hope to see you there. Goodbye.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Reschool'd podcast. Be sure to head over to reschool'd.com for news and other information on things we're getting into.